Hello, welcome to episode 406 of the Adelaide Show Podcast. I'm Steve Davis. Well, Christmas isn't here just yet, but it's not far away. And this episode is a gift. It's a gift in many ways. Our special guest is Peggy Byrne. She's the owner of Bowerbird Design Market, which is happening at the time of recording this coming weekend in Adelaide, the 15th annual Bowerbird Design Market at the Adelaide Showgrounds. So that's November 22nd to 24th, 2024. Those of you who know me know that I'm not a big fan of clutter, things. I prefer us to be more minimalist. And what is fascinating about this chat is, earnestly, Peggy turns me. She enlightens me. I get it. I get into the vision. I hope you will enjoy the journey as well. You might already be at that destination of appreciating things that have been designed by designers, and you get to meet them and mingle with them. So enjoy that chat. There's an accompanying video that goes with this episode, about 10 minutes or so, and we walk you through. It's like an infomercial showcase of some of the wonderful items available at the market. We start off with the SA Drink of the Week, also by an exhibitor at Bowerbird, and that is Heaps Good Gin. They've got a Victor Harbour gin, which is true to name, true to label. And then we finish off with a man who is a gift to South Australia and the world, Dino Jag. I don't think he can put a foot wrong when it comes to making music. Back in 2016, our musical curator at the time, Dan Drummond, recommended his song You Don't Have to Wait for Christmas Day for our Christmas episode. And I thought it's fitting to go back into the archives because a couple of years ago he made a great video that goes with this song too. I'll embed that in the show notes. Dino Jag will take us out and get us into the spirit of, just a little bit of relief in the world as we head to the end of this year. Enjoy.
Wave on waves since the gun band room. Adelaide, who landed here and made it their home. Adelaide, who 10-pound bombs and the refugees. Adelaide, who brings it down and Sudanese. Adelaide, who oh, little Adelaide, oh, Adelaide, who oh, little Adelaide, who.
In the spirit of reconciliation, the Adelaide Show Podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout South Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
Adelaide, 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 you Adelaide, 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 who.
For the South Australian Drink of the Week this week, we are heading to Victor Harbour. Well, in a roundabout way, our feature guest for this episode, who I'll be introducing properly a little bit later, is Peggy Byrne from Bowerbird Design Market. Peggy, welcome.
Thank you.
You'll get a nicer welcome in just a moment.
Okay.
But for the South Australian Drink of the Week, you've selected this because Heaps Good Spirits is one of your people.
They are indeed, yes. They've been coming to Bowerbird now for a few years and have done reasonably well. And I just love their innovations. They're always bringing out new styles of gin.
But they're not based at Victor Harbour, are they?
No, they're not. They say they're Adelaide based, but they've Heaps Good. Obviously, Heaps Good really relates to South Australia, and that was where they started off as making an Adelaide gin. But they've subsequently started to make gins that are representative of the regions, and the one today represents Victor Harbour because of some of the botanicals that are used in that gin.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to us actually having a taste of this. The bottle is quite fetching. I really like it. It's one of the smaller bottles that I've seen in the realm of gin, and it's got some beautiful, well, I wonder if this is just for this one, but there's a what would we call it? A collection of blue that is probably evoking the coastal nature of such a drink.
I would say so. I'd say that that's the reason for it. That there are others are, they've got lots of pinks and greens in there. So depending on what they're representing, but this one looks very much like the seaside.
It does. Well, I wonder if it will taste like it. We're about to find out, aren't we? Although I should have asked, because you've just finished an oil painting course.
Oh dear.
You can describe. How would you describe that array of colours? What would you say?
Well, I would say there are variant shades of blue, and as I've been taught recently, there is warmth and there is coolness in blue. So, and it's all in relationship to the other things on your palette. So, in this case, the only warm colour is the orange of the Heaps Good Gin logo. So everything is cool blue.
Okay. Well, let's try and open this now. Do you want to open it close to the microphone, and we'll see if we can capture the sound. So it's one of these. It's got the little. Oh, gee, that's a beautiful sound. Oh. All right, I'll take the glasses over there. And now, one thing I haven't forewarned you about, Peggy, this is very important, is our ritual since we began a few hundred episodes ago.
Right.
We always begin by toasting our late patron, Queen Adelaide. So, would you mind raising your glass to the Queen?
To the Queen.
All right, let's have a little taste of this.
It smells quite salty, doesn't it?
Yes, it actually, I smell olives.
Yes.
On my nose.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I guess when you think about it, we've got that near the coast. Mm-hmm. If you were on not a windy day, but on a still day down around Victor, you do get a little bit of that. Oh, okay. Right off the bat. Oh, there's something else. My nose is just trying to get something else out of the aroma here. Hang on. I'm not sure what that is. It's almost like we have been making homemade lemonade, and next to the chopping board are all the leftover juiced lemon carcasses, or whatever you call it, the other part of the lemon. And it's not like your nose is right there, but it's left a citrusy stain on the air, or a smudge.
It's a bit pithy, like that. The top note of lemon.
Yes, salt and pith. Sounds like an absurdist band from Sweden. All right, I think it's time to have a little taste now. Let's see what we've got. This is a very unusual gin, the way it entered my palate. It moved across my palate in an arc, similar to Steam Ranger, the way that the Steam Ranger train down there along the Encounter Bay coast takes that arc around the coast. It didn't just bore up the middle, it travelled.
Yes, it definitely has I can't put my finger on it, but I would be quite happy to drink that just on ice. No tonic required.
I agree.
It's quite warming.
Well, they do say that Victor Harbour is heaven's waiting room. And by that, in a nice way, means everything's there that you need. It's within arm's reach, and it's just comfortable. Mm-hmm. And this it's like a cat curling up on the edge of a sofa. It's just, it doesn't matter what's happening out there. It's totally content. This is the most content gin I've ever sipped.
Well, there you go.
And now, in calling this a Victor Harbour gin, you were saying before there are a few botanicals they've put into the mix. Let's just give them a little bit of love. So
they've mentioned that the savoury vibes is from local grown coastal daisy bush, which is where I think we get that salty, olivey sort of flavour. I'm sure that's what that is.
Yes. How many daisy bushes have you munched on in your life?
Well, it's the smell, not so much the taste.
Right. Well, I'm just trying to imagine what a daisy bush would taste like. And when you munch into it, it would be in the savoury realm. And it probably does bridge those two.
I think the coastal daisy bush is actually quite a fatty plant, isn't it? So a little bit like, not the salt bush as much, but it's got that.
Yeah, an oily fattiness. Wow, which would lend itself to olive. And okay. And what else do they have in there?
And then there are some lemon and orange bursts for a bit of freshness, and obviously the juniper is very much there.
Yes, and as I just got to the end of my last bit that I've got here, there might be some more that accidentally finds its way into the glass, he says.
Lucky it's a small bottle.
Lucky it's a small bottle. It's interesting. I really didn't get the citrus until I've already had 3 half sips, I guess, really. And it's that last one is where some of that just raised its head. There was a lot more work to do. It's like those espionage shows where they're going through a filing cabinet looking for a file and then they gradually find it just before the bad guys catch up to them.
It's exactly what it was like.
Well, there you go. What an interesting experience. And Heaps Good is one of your exhibitors, participants in the Bowerbird Design Market.
That's right.
And I guess this gin will be one that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the size of that bottle is because it comes in a series of 3 with 2 other regions covered.
Okay.
So you can buy them, great for Christmas presents, etc. And a slightly larger bottle.
Yes.
But then they have their 800ml bottles of the regular gin that they've made for a few years now, the Heaps Good gin, the Adelaide gin.
And I think the 800 bottle will be well deserved because I feel like to get to the bottom of their gin is a slow process that requires meticulous investigation.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone has to. All that's left for me to say is the Heaps Good Spirits Victor Harbour Gin is the South Australian drink of the week.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Guy Detot, vous êtes à Montgambier et vous écoutez le Adelaide Show.
Throughout human history, the act of gift-giving has undergone some remarkable transformations. If we go back to prehistoric times, people exchanged food and tools, not as commodities, but as a way to strengthen social bonds and build alliances. We then moved to the ancient civilizations like Egypt and Rome. They elevated gifting to elaborate diplomatic and religious practices, where gifts carried deep symbolic meaning. Then during the Middle Ages, gifts, often food-based gifts, became powerful symbols of status and authority between nobles and their subjects. But perhaps the most dramatic shift in gift-giving came with the rise of modern consumerism. It transformed from something that cost the giver primarily time and care, like a hand-woven blanket or carefully preserved foods, into something that just costs money. Instead of gifts emerging from hours of careful labour, they typically emerged from shopping bags. And today we face an interesting paradox. Neuroscience tells us that gift-giving activates pleasure centres in our brain. Many people feel overwhelmed by receiving yet another item that adds to their household clutter. The tension between the joy of giving and the stress of accumulation makes this conversation we're about to have particularly timely. And as we just heard in the SA Drink of the Week, we're speaking with Peggy Byrne. Peggy bought the Adelaide Bowerbird Design Market 5 years ago. It's now into its 15th year, and it's been creating a space where handmade crafts and artisanal products can find their place in our modern gift-giving culture. Peggy, welcome to the formal part of the podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Now, after that grand sweep of gift-giving history, from the prehistoric tools up to the modern days, did any of those eras resonate with you more than others?
Look, I think the gift that is made that has a personal touch because it's been handmade, I think is the one that is always going to be the more precious.
And yet there's still some wriggle room there because we've all had to smile nicely as a person's given us something they've handmade.
Oh, have you met my family?
All right. Well, you've just finished an oil painting course. I imagine there's a few oil painting gifts coming along.
Oh, dear.
Which should be good, though. I mean, there is that, and we appreciate the thought. But then, of course, your people are well-honed their skills. And so handmade itself has nuance.
It does, absolutely. I do still think that while something may be a little bit cringy that you might receive that someone's made for you, you'll remember it. And I think that memory is almost as valuable as the gift you've been given, because it's a piece of time. It's a memory in your life that you hold on to because that person has made it for you. Whether it was nice or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I actually thinking of my eldest daughter. She, in metalwork, made a carrying basket, a toolbox. And when I saw it, I said, could I please have that? Because when I go out and do video shoots, it's perfect. I've got my drone in there, my little microphones, but it's more than that. She made it, and
That's
it
right.
feels good to be connected. And look, there are better looking things out there. She did a great job. But yes, and that means a lot.
Yep.
It means a lot.
I remember my grandfather, he was almost blind by the time he passed away, and he had to look sideways, and he used to use this magnifying glass, a little wooden handle magnifying glass to look at things. And I'd go and visit him as a child, and one day it broke. The handle broke, and I was like, right, that's it. Took it to the shed, fixed it. I don't know how I fixed it, MacGyver style. And, he kept using that magnifying glass, even though he had about 5 others in the drawer that were much sturdier, but because I fixed it for him.
And at this point in my life, I get that now.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you told 21-year-old me that, I would have just thought, what's going on? I don't know. I get it.
Absolutely.
I get it.
Yeah. And so, of course, now if something is made with skill, then you're just elevating that gift giving. That item is just that little bit more special.
And we are coming back into that territory in just a little while. But I do, before we move into this too deeply, I want to come back to this feeling of overwhelm with possessions. When I was talking to Katrina about having a chat with you, I had to confess that I'm stressed at home. It's 1 against 3. And our house is groaning with things everywhere. And I just cannot see our way out of this. And the thought of more things, it brings me down. I wish it wasn't like that, because you see these beautiful things in SA Life, and the houses are almost bare, and that wouldn't be magnificent. You bought something, it would be pride of place. So I imagine I'm not an orphan with this particular feeling of overwhelm. You're creating a market where more objects are about to enter people's lives. What's your perspective on this apparent contradiction?
Look, I'll take an example that's a personal example. When I first moved out of home into my own apartment, I did the IKEA run, and
Yes.
I bought the set of 12 plates and the 6 knives and the block and all of the pots and pans, etc. And they did me well. I actually wasn't cooking, so it didn't really matter. But I had the stuff, I had the stuff.
It looked right.
It looked right. 20 years later, when I travelled around the world quite a bit, so actually reducing the amount of stuff that I had became important. I found that what I was then doing, and it partly because finances were probably a little bit better for me, but also because I had a need to reduce my stuff, is that I bought one really good knife, and I bought the teacups that my grandmother gave me because they meant something to me. I didn't buy any other mugs. I reduced what I had because I needed to, but also I kept the things that I would be the most valuable for me. So I went for quality instead of quantity. And I think that's something we all go through phases where we feel we need to clutter, and then we declutter. And then we clutter again, and then we declutter. But I think at some point, and I think today a lot of people are heading in this direction, we're more likely to buy, for example, a piece of clothing that could be matched to 4 or 5 other items in our wardrobe than to buy a whole new outfit. And I think that's what happens with trends. But given the state of the economy, the state of the environment, and everything that we've been through the last few years, I think that's really a good direction to be heading in. And I think that's why a market like Bowerbird and these handcrafted and small batch items are getting a lot more interest.
Yeah, well, we just had the mayor of Prague dump 5 tons of thrown away clothing in the town square to make this point. But also think about the clutter. It just occurred to me that some people are born into clutteredness, some achieve clutteredness, and some have clutteredness thrust upon them, which I will put I probably can't throw the first stone. Because if I think of the kitchen, one thing you just said, just slapped me in the face with a realisation in a nice way. One good knife. There are 2 things that come from that. there's a reliable, beautiful knife that you can enjoy using. And secondly, you do not have a pile of dishes build up of the other knives that have not yet been washed. If I take nothing else away from this conversation, I think you've just named a mindset shift. And it could be that our family get home at some point in the next few weeks and knives have disappeared and there's one that replaces them. Could even be one from Bauer. Have you got any knife makers?
Well, of course I do.
Ah.
I have an amazing knife maker called Dogboy Knives. And Richard has been making knives for quite a while now, but he uses recycled iron, right? Recycled
wow.
steel. So, old wheels and things like that. So it's quite beautiful. But he can also make Damascus knives and all of the very fancy knives. And you see them in chef's kitchens. So they are quality knives.
Good. Okay, there you go. I can see you're going to gradually get me over the other side of this. But, I mean, with those of us drowning in stuff, just take this further a bit more. With Bowerbird, you just pointed out this. Now, this would be a dynamic happening to me where I could see a vision of, I take this one and I sweep the other stuff off the board. Is that the nature? Do you think there's something inherent in the Bowerbird DNA that is potent, that's pregnant with this potential if we walk through with an open mind through these markets? How does it not just make clutter? How does it take this further?
Well, I think clutter to me is items that are unused, unneeded, unrequired. They're not necessarily, you might have 3 items, but if 2 aren't required, that's clutter. So it's not necessarily volume. And I think that when you buy something from, one of the mass stores, mass brands, you might think, well, for my money, I can get 12 plates and a set of 6 knives and all the pans that I will never use. Or for that money, I could buy a really nice plate made hand-thrown by someone, a nice mug for my cup of tea in the morning, a really good knife, and that's all I need because I'm only going to get takeout. I don't need the pans. Depending on your life, you might just say, what do I need? And then just buy the very best or the one that you love the most.
As my daughters would say, I'm really vibing with this at the moment. And there's a series of novels, the character's Harry Bauer, and I always was struck that he's this tough LA detective, sort of goes outside the rules every now and then. Lovely, endearing character. But he lives alone, and after he makes his dinner, he washes the plate and the knife and just stacks them in the... And I thought, gee, I'd love to get to that point. And now I found a way forward. Now, you've bought in 5 years ago. Were you ever involved with Bowerbird as a participant or a consumer before that?
A consumer, yes. A couple of years before I bought the market. I travelled a lot outside of Australia, so I only came back about 10 years ago myself. And so when I went to the first time to Bowerbird, I thought, this is fantastic. This is wonderful. It reminded me a little bit of an artisanal market you might find in southern Italy or France or something where, just some local makers are bringing out their wares. But a little bit more modern, I guess, and a little less traditional. But it reminded me of that, and it had a wonderful atmosphere. Everybody just seemed happy because everything they were looking at was beautiful. Whether they were buying it or not, they were having great conversations with makers who were so passionate. The conversation's only going to go one way when someone just loves everything they do. So, I just thought, this is a lovely market I enjoy going to. And then when I found out it was for sale, I was at a point where I thought, I've got marketing background, I've got events background, I've got sponsorship background, and I've been working for a small business for years. So I thought, why not?
Wow. So that's about 7-ish years that you've been in and out of the Bowerbird world. Has the term handmade shifted in any understanding or meaning over that time, or has it remained constant?
Well, we need to be careful about terminology because Bowerbird is a market that celebrates Australian designers. So an Australian designer could be the ideas person, doesn't know how to make a single thing, but has a fabulous idea, find somebody who can make it. That's still a designer that we would accept at Bowerbird. And sometimes they can make the item, but it's too expensive to make it locally, so they'll have to source it outside. So once they've they've created their patterns or whatever, and they're happy with the artisans they're using, then it gets made offshore. So again, they would be accepted at Bowerbird. Yep. And then there's those that literally walk outside into their studio and just start making things, and they're obviously always welcomed at Bowerbird. So handmade is a specific part of a designer's capabilities. Not all designers will hand make their products, but they will get involved to the nth degree in making sure that it's perfect and as they've envisaged it.
So the curation process is really important here. This is not like the Adelaide Fringe where anyone can sign up and come what may. You have to turn people away.
I do.
That must be hard.
Look, it's difficult, and I think one of the things that I've found is it's not the designer's fault that they assume that their work will fit into any market, because other than Bowerbird in Adelaide, there are not that many markets that curate their lineup. There are others in interstate that do a similar thing that Bowerbird does. But what that means is that I can be looking for, let's say I need 20 jewellers in my lineup, and I will get 50 applications. And I need a bit of silver, and I need a little bit of ceramic, and I need a little bit of polymer. I need a bit of every type of product that can be made into jewellery, because otherwise I've got too much silver or too much polymer. But as a whole, I still have 20 jewellers, which is a lot, because not everybody needs jewellery. So there is a balance. I have to be fair in the category, but I also have to make sure the category doesn't overtake everything else.
The market, yes.
Yeah. So there's a bit of to it. So sometimes I will, turn people away, and they're like, but my work is amazing. I'm like, I don't doubt it, but I've got 5 similar, and you wouldn't do very well because you'll be competing directly with people who do similar things. So there's a bit of that, and I have to be fair and try and rotate that. But then my customers ask for certain people, and I have to have them as well because customers ask for them. So often I'm not very liked, but I have to do what's right for not just the designers but the customers.
Wow, there's the makings of a telemovie here.
Oh no, please no.
It might end up to a whodunit mystery. So when we're going to the market, which is happening, we haven't mentioned this yet. This is coming out at the time of recording, the weekend before it all happens. So it's November
22nd to 24th,
and it's at the
Adelaide Showground in the Wavell Pavilion.
And the entry price is so modest.
So, yes, it is. It's $6. $6 for adults, and children under 13 are free. And the reason is we believe that we need to qualify people entering in terms of their intent. Because, often these days you'll walk down the street on a Saturday and your local council or a group of traders have put together a market and, there it is, there's a market, I can go to this market, and it's absolutely free, but you had no intention of going there, you just happened to be walking down the street to get a coffee. So it's happen chance, and it's not necessarily, it's definitely not curated. For Bowerbird, we bring people from interstate. We need to get people through the door that have an intent to engage with the designers. They don't have to spend, obviously, with the designers, but just that intent to engage. That we don't want people just walking from one end to the next to get to the other exit door.
Right.
That's not the intent. So that's what the $6 stands for. It's also an acknowledgement that it is curated. Somebody's put a lot of thought into it, aka me. But, always someone has put a lot of thought into it. And, the showground is not a very cheap place to host an event. It's neither should it be, because it's a fabulous venue. So that's what the $6 is for. And it's affordable. I mean, it would never, a lot of events at the showgrounds are in the $20 or more, but I don't think Bowerbird would ever go there because it's taking money away from the designers inside the room, which is silly.
Yeah. No, when I was reading that, it struck me as that is just so, it's fair, probably more than fair, but it's nice.
Yes.
It is a token, but there's an importance that comes with that. What is the mindset that a visitor could adopt to get the absolute most out of a visit to the Bowerbird design market? Well, how do you set yourself up as a visitor for success?
Look, one thing you need to accept is that you're probably not going to see every single thing to the degree to the equal degree. I mean, I'm there for 3 days and I talk to every single designer, and I will still go home and go, oh, I haven't seen, why didn't I ask them about this product? Just because,
Really?
So there's just so much there to discover. You're probably not going to see everything. So that could be a stress for some people. They walk in and they just see all this colour and think, oh, how do I get around this? My advice is just walk around, just meander, do a lap, see what grabs your eye, see what you're drawn to. The designers themselves who present their wares, because that's a requirement of ours, that it has to be the designer at least one of the days, they will also be a reason why you engage. You might, I don't know, see something in the way they look at you or in the way that they're talking about their products to someone else, and that might be a reason that you remember them. So you do a lap and then come back again, and in that second lap, actually go to the vendors or the stalls that have attracted you. And even if you're not looking to buy, don't be afraid to talk to the designers. They don't mind. They really don't mind if you approach and don't end up buying. They love to tell their story. They know that one day you might say, oh, I remember there was this person who sold this, and I'll look them up. It always happens. We get a lot of people after the market ringing us saying, oh, who was it that was in that corner that was selling those handbags? And we'll pass.
And you'll connect them.
Absolutely. I mean, our website can do that as well, because all of the designers are up there. But if you don't quite remember their name, or sometimes the brain's a funny thing. You have to sit on something, especially if it's a luxury item. Some items are in the hundreds of dollars, and that's not something. If you had not intended to go somewhere to buy a $200 handbag, you might not do it straight away. But in a few weeks, you might say, I keep thinking about that bag. It'd be perfect for my next holiday. And then you might contact the maker. So we understand that happens. So to get the most out of Bowerbird is be open to have the conversations. You might assume something's overpriced or silly, but then talk to the designer and understand why they do what they do and how they do it, and you might walk away with a different opinion. Do
you cast your mind over that when they're applying and gauge pricing? I do. So so I balance the silver and the polymer and the resin, but I also balance the price point. So we'll have silver jewellers which have a $50 price point and others that have a $200 price point. Yeah. We obviously can't have 5 that are $200 price point. So I do, absolutely. That's one of the questions we ask. One other question that I'm curious about. Have you ever considered auditioning your designers on their skills of talking to people? Because I often hear people, whether it's a farmer's market or whatever, come on, have a chat, and you get there and there's a stallholder sitting down reading their novel, and either they're too embarrassed or too bored to care. Now, I'm not expecting that to be the case there, but there's a difference between someone who is not doing that but still not engaging versus a great gregarious character who is entertaining of their own volition.
Look, it happens all the time that I fall in love with the designer's work that they send through to me, fall in love with the story that they give me. I love everything about what they're trying to achieve. So I give them a spot and they come to Bowerbird and they get a good location where it's got a lot of exposure to people walking through the door, first impression, for example. And I see they're sitting down and they're on their phone and they're looking down. And it breaks my heart because I've given them the best possible opportunity to be the first thing people see when they walk through the door, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes it isn't. But, in people's minds, being near the front door is a premium spot. I don't believe that it actually works in their favour all the time, but never mind. And then they do that. They either regress, they're scared, or maybe they just sometimes there's a sense of, well, I'm just here, I just make the stuff. And it's like, well, actually no, because you've got to tell me why I need to look at this. You've got to tell me why it's so special to you, because that's what I'm buying. I'm not just buying a mug. I'm buying a mug that you've put a little bit of yourself into and that I have a story to tell when I take it home. That's added value. That's why things are worth the money that you're spending, is because they're not just a million of them. They're all unique.
It's interesting because in my day job as a marketer, I know that from a search engine optimization perspective, being number one on Google is often not the best situation. You want to be 2 or 3 because people will look at the first one to benchmark and then start making their decisions. So that's that. But the other thing is, it really does bring us right back to the very early days of branding, where people didn't have a Coke logo, but they knew it was Bill from Anguston who made this lemonade, and so it got known as Bill's Lemonade, and Bill was that brand wherever Bill was, whether Bill liked that or not. And this is a beautiful sort of full circle. These people, these designers, are their brands, and we get to talk to that living brand.
That's right. That's right.
I do hope that many of them get that, because that's what we don't often get. Often brands are really fabricated and plastic these days. But this is a chance to get into the story.
Absolutely. And, I'm thinking of a designer, Jude, who comes from Victoria. He's a fashion designer. And, he lives and breathes the fashion that he makes. No one looks better in his clothing than he does. He looks fantastic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's him. You're trying to clone yourself into him when you're looking at his clothes, because it's just perfect. And he's very softly spoken. He's such a kind man. A lot of artisanal skills from his homeland. From his Asian heritage.
Okay.
Hand stitching and things like that. Just beautiful. But he's super quirky and super fun. And I find people, his clothing are polarizing. They're not for everyone. But I find that his stall is always busy because it's interesting. And even if you walk away and you don't buy an item, he doesn't mind because he loves to tell you why he does what he does. So that's really important. There are other people, a lot of the makers or producers, actually, you'll find a lot of the producers aren't necessarily very good at selling themselves because they're locked in a kitchen making whatever they make, but when you start hearing about this is a recipe handed down from great grandma blah blah blah, and this was from Sicily and this is how we do it, but now we've used the modern way of using air fryers, etc. You think, oh wow, I've got to have this. This is going to be the best biscuit I've ever eaten in my life, because so much. You don't really think about the thinking that goes behind things. You just pick something up at the supermarket or in a shop and you just think, well, I'm just buying it. You don't think about what's behind it. And I think once you learn what's behind it, it just becomes special.
It does connect us. I know at the moment, at the time of recording, Chibo, the range of cafes, is in the process of being bought out or has been sold to the Gloria Jean Group or whichever group owns that. And I saw an interesting comment of someone saying the original founders of Chibo wanted to make coffee as we do it in Italy. That was their point of difference. And then when they sold out and other franchisees took over, I don't think it's unfair of me to say, not all of them maintained that. It became like another cafe to a degree. But I still remembered that point of difference in the beginning. And so you're actually making me really excited about this market.
Oh, yay.
Especially because I know that we buy from people we know, like, and trust. And here, the designer, the producer gets to do that in one fell swoop. And so if anything, I would be rehearsing, I would be preparing, I'd be resting my voice if I was a designer. I would treat this like I was going on stage.
And I think a lot of them do. Obviously, the ones that I mentioned that are given the opportunity and don't seem to take it, with both hands, they either don't do very well at the market and then will blame me for it, in which I can always, give them some suggestions on how things could improve. But if they're not willing to give it a second go, it's always a telltale sign for me, because I think, not everybody is going to make it ups and downs. The market has its ups and downs. People choose to buy different things at different times. But the good makers know that they need to give it a few goes for people to go, oh, I know I can find them there. I know this brand is going to be at Bowerbird at least one of the 2 events in the year. And then they build up that, especially the ones from interstate. I mean, you can't buy their products anywhere else in SA except at Bowerbird. you'd expect them to come back so that they start building that audience. So, there is that. But the ones that are very good, I don't think they rehearse because they're so natural.
Yes, and I didn't mean rehearse as in...
I know what you mean, but I think that's what's good, because there are also those that are overly, and it's personality as well. I'm not somebody who would be very attracted to a hard sell. I'm not a hard sell person.
Yep.
And I often find people who just... ask me, how's my day? Oh, how are you? How have you been? You enjoying the market? Not so much, what can I show you? Have you tried this? But just engage with me is probably but there's different styles. Everyone has a style.
Well, they are. And I really meant that it's a performance time, to be on stage, to be in the limelight. One of my secret pleasures is Bill Maher has a podcast called Club Random. He just had Sammy Hagar on, who's known by many people as a rock singer, and he declined the offer to smoke a joint with Bill because he said, I'm about to start a concert tour, I'm looking after my throat. It's that sort of discipline that... they're lucky that you're running it, because I would be like a strict director with every designer.
Do you know, if I had the time,
You would.
if there was 5 of me, there are definitely things that I would do that I would fine-tune a bit more. One of the things that I did when I took over the market was my predecessor used to let the designers put up the cardboard that goes onto the back wall of the fencing. That's how we create our little aisles, is a fence with a cardboard piece on there. And she would, as they arrived, they would grab a piece of cardboard and put up their own cardboard on the fence. Fair enough. And after the first event where this happened, I was like, I can't, no, this is not straight. I cannot cope with that. So I put up the cardboard for the designers. And the next time they came and they saw the cardboard was up, they said, oh my God, you've saved us so much time. I'm thinking, I saved you time. I saved you 5 minutes by taking 4 hours of my time. But it's more about my OCD. I just needed things to be straight and perfect.
Well, I think we kind of need someone with a bit of OCD in the background.
I think so, especially in events.
Yes, of course, you've got that background too. Environmental aspects, if we look at all your different people, are they all in the category of being very light touch on the environment? Or I know it's not a promise made by the market. Is there a mix? Is it sort of 2/3, a third? Or is just the fact that you're buying less lessening the footprint anyway?
I think in its nature, it's going to be more environmentally friendly because of the smaller batch making, less waste, etc.
And Peggy, let me just interrupt, sorry, just so I don't come across as a hypocritical up himself tosser. I still buy a mix of things, many of which are not necessarily good. So I'm asking out of pure earnest curiosity rather than from a high moral horse.
And, it is something that we consider as well in all the markets in Australia are considering how we can have a lighter touch on the planet. But the reality is there are lots of things that we can do that are small that make an impact. And some of the things that the designers do, while they may not be promoting themselves as being sustainable and environmentally friendly in that way, is reusing waste material. So Jude, who I mentioned before, who makes the beautiful clothing, he started to make brooches with the little strips of fabric that are cut off the ends of rolls. So he makes these beautiful brooches that they would be so time consuming to make, but they're beautiful flowers just made out of all the different fabrics using his stitching style. And that's a way for him to have minimum waste.
Yeah.
So here's an example of what some designers do. Leather makers who make handbags, etc., will start making little key rings and things like that, just to use the small wastage. So that is important. We all need to do something like that. I try not to promote plastic too much. Yep. So by that I mean, there are a lot of options when you're making materials, and I will always tend to go towards the natural materials. Obviously, there are other trends that you just cannot avoid, where you do allow for that component of plastics or waste to come into it. But really, the designers are pretty good, even to their packaging. They're very careful to use the right packaging, and we all are these days. I've received a lot of products in the post recently, and they're all using that that biodegradable.
Yes.
So, we should all do as much as we can.
We could. And you've mentioned trends a couple of times today. Let's look at, as you reflect over your time with Bowerbird, what shifts have you noticed? What trends have happened? And obviously giving us a bit of focus on the 15th anniversary Bowerbird market, which is just about to take place.
So the most notable trend that I've seen is, I guess, in ceramics. I mean, I'm a fan of ceramics. I love ceramics. When I first took over, and the first few times I went to Bowerbird pre-purchasing the business, there was a lot of brown clay, white glaze ceramics, very Danish, very minimalistic, very beautiful, of all varying sort of shapes and sizes. But that seemed to be a very on-trend thing. Yeah. And in the last few years, I've had so many ceramicists with bright, bold colours, and I love bold coloured glazes. It's just brilliant. It's not something that you would normally see on a glaze on a ceramic mug, other than porcelain is white, so you can paint it and make it look absolutely pristine. But with a clay, a coloured clay, that you've got to glaze it. Wow. And then you've got to add different colours to it. And obviously the colours all come from various elements that are in the powder of the glaze. And then when you fire them, they change colour into bright blues and reds, etc. But there's also underglazes and painting. There's been just so much of that these days, which is lovely, because colour, we all need colour in our lives. I mean, I've got a very minimalistic house in terms of tone, but every vase that I've bought has been bright red or bright yellow or bright blue in the last 6 months, because, I want colour in my life.
Have you reached peak vase yet?
Well, what I've actually found is that, so vases, when you have flowers, amazing. But when there's no flowers, when flowers are not in season, and I only ever use flowers for my garden, the actual colourful vase is a decorative item on its own. So I never put my vases away. So have I reached maximum vase? I'm sure there's one out there that's got my name on it.
Also, who's new in the zoo for the 15th? We can't play favourites, obviously. No. It's not fair of the mum to do that, but let's tease us with a few.
I have been, this year I went on a road trip. I went to every other market similar to Bowerbird interstate. I get a lot of designers from interstate that come to Bowerbird, so I know about these other markets, and I obviously see them online and see their advertising. But I actually physically went to them this year, and I found 2 designers that I am so excited about that are coming over. And one is, now this is going to feed into your clutter argument, but I'm going to say it anyway. One is a ceramicist, she's an artist.
Yes.
And it's called George the Slug.
Oh, yes.
Now, George the Slug is, she's an artist that makes very small ceramic slugs. But they're sort of futuristic slugs. Some of them look a little bit alien. Some of them have got teeth. Yep. They look very strange. But do you know what it is?
What?
They make you happy. They're the size of your thumbnail, and they're so cute and bright and colourful. When you catch a glimpse of them when you're walking past, they make you happy. And in her website intro about why slugs, she said she found herself connected to slugs when she was watching them in her garden, going backwards and forwards with no real purpose in life. And she said, and I felt that we were connected by that one, concept.
Wow.
And so she started drawing slugs, but they became happy slugs that did have a purpose to make you happy. And I thought, you know what, that is a very whimsical, lovely thing. It doesn't hurt anyone. You put it in a plant pot. You can put it by your favourite mug of tea in the morning to make you smile when you get up.
Yeah, you had me with the plant pot. I think that's good, because slugs are basically homeless snails.
Yes.
When you think about it. So anything to do.
Give them a home.
Yes.
Give them a home. Well, anyway, so I'm very, very pleased that she's coming. And she also does beautiful illustrations, quirky illustrations, and, things that make you warm your heart. I think you can never have too many things like that, because it's very easy to be depressed these days. So I'm all for these items. And then the other one I'm very excited about is a lady, a brand called Hey Lady, and her name is Lady. She makes guitar straps, and I guess you would also use them for cameras, camera straps. In that traditional braiding,
Yes.
it's like a stitching. It's
Yes.
beautiful, but it's a bit contemporary because she's using brighter colours and beautiful designs. And so she's been trying to come to Barbet for about 3 years, but for one reason or another, she's not been able to make it. So finally, she's coming. So if you know anyone that plays the guitar or has an instrument or has a camera in front of their face most of the time, or she even makes belts and handbag straps. So, all those things, again, bright, colourful, but made in a traditional method.
Peggy, have you been stalking me?
No, I haven't. Should I?
Yes. Well, my new comedy character I'm working on is a wandering Australian country singer. And I've bought a guitar and I'm learning, working with Rick Price on writing some songs. And I thought to myself in the last week, I need a guitar strap so that I can stand and play. And here you are.
There we go.
I don't know that this is coincidence.
Well, I would have loved to have become a musician, but it was never in the cards for me. I do have my father's guitar hanging on the wall, but it never gets played. And I will be buying a strap just to decorate that guitar.
Yes, of course you will. Wow. All right. There's also workshops that you run.
Yeah.
Can you take us through some of those?
Sure. So this event, we've got two of our actual designers who are presenting their products, also hosting workshops. So they're doing a
See, I love that.
Yeah, a bit of a double up. They've got it. After a while, they get enough staff, family members or daughters, etc., who can help at the stand for an hour. So fantastic. So we've got Jenny from Garden to Gallery. Now, Garden to Gallery make the most beautiful silk scarves. They're dyed with natural flora.
Oh.
Yeah, so flowers and leaves, etc., is a technique that you can use, and the silk picks up the colours and just makes these beautiful hues. So she's going to teach people how to do that. I think you walk away with a little handkerchief size a silk scarf or hair tie, whatever you want to use it for, but also you'll leave her with a larger scarf that you've worked on, and she'll finish the dyeing process for you, because that one will require what they call setting. So that'll be great. So you'll probably get it in time for Christmas if you want to give it to somebody. So that is a fabulous workshop. And Jenny's just the most beautiful person. Another one of our designers is Tracy from Berry Beret. Now, Berry Beret make beautiful polymer earrings. Now, polymer earrings and clay earrings seem to be the trend. Everybody's making it. But Tracy knows how to make an earring. She has an understanding of colour and fun. And it's just amazing. They're the types of earrings that they don't cost very much, because obviously the materials are relatively cheap, but they definitely make your outfit, finish your outfit off. So she's going to teach you how she does it, how she uses the layering, etc. And that'll be fun. It's with a glass of bubbles as well while you're there. So, a very relaxed workshop. But then we've got a serious workshop with a jeweller called Claire Brooks. She's not presenting at Bowerbird because she's way too busy at the moment, but she will be doing a workshop for us, a very small workshop for only 6 people at a time, how to create a wax ring that then she will cast in silver and send to you. So you'll understand the concepts of how to make a silver ring, basically. So she's bringing all the gear and everything, which will be very exciting.
Right.
So
So you make a ring out of wax and engrave or do whatever you do. And then she moulds that, I imagine, then pours silver and...
she'll cast it.
Cast it.
She'll create
There you
a
go.
cast out of it, and then she'll add the silver to it.
How interesting.
Fantastic.
And the sizing's already there because
Yep.
you've done...
Absolutely. So that's your introduction, and obviously she can take you further into the jewellery making process of how to clean up rings and all the settings of gems, etc. But this is really an introduction on jewellery making. If you get hooked by what you do at that workshop, I guarantee you'll continue on, because it's so much fun. And then we've got some kids workshops too, because it's a family affair.
Yes.
We've got the pros that are coming down, Little Picassos. They do fabulous workshops. As a business for kids, and really look, I think a workshop sometimes for children can be just a bit of a pastime, but what they do is really engage the kids in understanding the potential of materials. They'll give you every material you can think of, and they'll say, right, one of them is a reindeer portrait, but using texture and fabrics and paint and pencils and all the materials to try and get layers and to really create a character out of this reindeer. And then the other one is a still life, a floral still life. So they'll set up a floral still life, and then you can come in and learn that. So it's for kids 4 to 15, so not just kids, but they are professional teachers. In art, so it should be fantastic. So we're hoping that kids come along and then become makers in the future.
If there are these workshops for the kids, is this part of your secret mission to avoid parents having to smile and nod when a kid gives them a gift badly done by upping their skill level? Is that really what's happening?
Yes, well, it's kind of like the analogy about giving somebody a fishing rod, teaching them how to fish.
Oh, yes,
I think that's kind of that. If your kid brings home a really bad ceramic ashtray, then teach them how to make a proper ashtray, or not ashtray anymore, whatever we make at school these days.
Yes, of course. They probably don't make many ashtrays at school.
What would they make now?
A vape holder. Now, just in closing, a couple of things. I remembered one of our listeners asked, in me reflecting publicly about the giving, not giving, awkwardness, etc., they said, if you don't know what to give someone, giving them a gift of service is a lovely way. So I'll, give you a massage, or I'll clean the dishes, or which is nice. But you've shown me that is good. I don't think you disagree with that.
I don't, no.
But I get the impression that if I wandered the halls, the passages, the pathways of the bowerbird design market, maybe things would fall into place in the way they don't when you walk through a department store or those gift shops that are just groaning with a cacophony of things.
I think, yes, I totally agree. So one thing that I'm very careful not to do is to put too many things together. So I don't put all the clothes together and all the jewellery together as you would find in a department store. Yeah. Because I think then if your purpose isn't to buy a shirt, then you're not going to go there. And I think it does a disservice to the designers. But also, things need to be seen in unison. Things need to be seen together and how they marry together. I think there's a lot to be said for, in the last few years, one of the categories that's grown the most is the food and what we call the pantry and bar category, which are artisanal, gin makers and biscuit makers, etc., wine, etc. But they've grown a lot because, they go very well with a wooden board or, a knife from Dog Boy or a glass from Emma Clow. They go well together. So pairing things together, giving them context is a really easy way for people to buy smart. You buy smart. You're not just buying, Auntie Jane, I'm going to buy her this, but then Uncle John, I have to go to another shop to buy for Uncle John. No, you don't. Just buy everything in one place. If you need to buy things, you will find something for everyone at a place like Bowerbird, because that's what a Bowerbird does. It brings all the things together under one roof.
All right. Have you got, in closing, any wisdom, any tips? I mean, you've shared a lot already, but if there's someone you've got no idea what to get them for, and you have to give in to the norms of the world, and to not buy them something would be rude. Actually, because one quick footnote, I think the scourge of society are Kris Kringles, where people are forced to buy things, especially in workplaces, for people that don't really care about that deeply, and they're just going to go stupid and get silly trash that will get one laugh and thrown away. I actually really don't like it. I'm sure there are some workplaces where people take it more seriously. Maybe it's just the people I mix with. Have you got any? Have you got a rule of thumb that you use if you were to buy someone a gift? In fact, you've only just met me. What would run through your mind in thinking, what can I buy Steve?
Well, I know what I'd buy. I'd buy you a guitar strap.
Yes.
No, but I think what I would buy you is something that that you can talk about. I would buy you something that you can share with your friends and talk about with your friends. So I would make sure that whatever it is that I bought you, you would have the background, you would have the story behind it. Yeah. So, things like traditional, these traditional biscuits that I brought in today, on the packaging, it gives you the story of the grandma and the original recipe and how they've taken that, from generation to generation, etc. That's a lovely gift because, well, for one, it's food, so yum.
Yes. We're looking at almond bread, by the way, from, is it Back to Basics?
Back to Basics tradition. So it's beautiful almond bread. But, Rob makes these in the recipe that he has learnt from his aunts and his mother and his family history.
It says made following a traditional calabrese Italian recipe from our Collezione di Famiglia, the family collection cookbook. Our almond bread is light, crisp and delicious, packed full of 100% fresh Australian almonds. You won't want to share it. Buon appetito.
And it is delicious. I can stand by that one. Yeah, once you open it, the packet disappears.
Right. And also, is that theirs as well, the broad bean chips?
Yeah, broad bean chips. So again, this is an old recipe or a traditional recipe that I guess you would have had in the fields while you were, you would take that with you while you were working, and it's something you'd have in your pocket and munch on all day. But they've modernised it a bit, using less of the oil frying, and now they're using air frying to make them more more healthy, and they're delicious.
And does make a point here. These are sea salt and olive oil broad bean chips. A nutritional powerhouse that's super tasty. Hadn't actually thought of that. There probably is a bit more nutrition in these than a potato chip, for example.
I would say so, yes. And again, these things came from, that's what people used to take in their pockets when they used to go work the fields. It was an easy snack to have.
Yeah.
So there was a purpose for it. It's not something new or something that isn't required that somebody's come up with just to have something new. It's something that existed already. It's just been improved, and also the tradition's been carried over. So that's what all of these artisans do. They glass blowing. That's been around for gazillion years. Ceramic works.
Sorry, you're just pointing. Is that glass there?
That is the hand. That is, yes, that's blown by a lady called Emma Clow Glass. And it's
this is one of those stemless glasses, dear listener. It tapers down, so the glass sort of rolls around on an axis, a bit like a spinning top that's not spinning.
Yeah, and they make decanters as well. She makes decanters as well, where you put the wine in, and the actual spinning motion aerates the wine beautifully. It's terrifying to look at because you assume that it's going to go crashing, but it actually never misses a beat.
And she hand blows.
She does. She's been doing it for over 10 years, and all different colours. You see them a lot at Jam Factory, and she's a very talented South Australian artist.
What are you doing to me, Peggy? Now, see, I like this. This is beautiful. And again, I would clear the Riddells out and replace with just a few of these. And then next to us we've got, is this?
Ceramics, yeah.
The ceramic.
This
We're looking. We'll take some photos of this, by the way. In the show notes, you'll see photos. And Peggy and I might do a quick video before we finish to sit with this. This is a mug I'm holding that's been hand turned. And this is, what did you say?
Hand thrown.
Hand thrown.
Wheel
Thank
thrown,
you. And this is the one with all those, is draped with colour. It sort of drips down the side.
It looks a bit like a landscape, all the earthy tones and sea and sky. It's quite lovely. That's a clay by Qua.
And what have you got there?
I just wanted to show you this because it's not just about, your parents or your kids or your friends. It's also about your pets. We've got designers who make pet toys and
let me have a look.
Collars, etc. But in the same, ethical, considered fashion, where there was a need to have pet toys that weren't landfill after 3 chews. And these are just absolutely amazing. They will last a considerable amount of time, depending on how your dog is.
Yes. Well, I'm holding a long purple leather caterpillar.
It's called Gertie the caterpillar.
Gertie the caterpillar. It's got thick knots along the bottom to represent the legs and also some antenna. And I can see this is made by Georgie Paws. This is lasting quite a while. And from when I did some work with Zoos SA, I remember the importance of giving animals things like this to keep their brains active.
And the clever thing about this is that they've done their research. You know, they're not just dog lovers and designers. They've worked out that dogs want an easy win. So there's always something on their toys that will give. The first thing that will give. So in this case, it's the ears of the caterpillar. It doesn't have ears. Must be an antenna. Antenna. Yes. And so this will give first. And so the dog will feel satisfied that it's achieved its goal of destruction. But then it'll continue the hardier part of the toy, and eventually the legs will start to give because they're also slightly weaker than the body.
Yeah.
And so it gives the dog a sense of a reason to come back and to continue to destroy.
Has Georgie Paws really thought this through? Because isn't this just training the dog? When they get access to your slippers, they know the tricks.
Well, they won't want your slippers if they had this. They've actually just won the South Australian Small Business of the Year. I think the Premier gave them an award recently. I find this out on social media, and I'm very excited for them. They're way too busy to tell me these things, but yes, it's great. I mean, she started this business at the age of 13, and she got her mum involved. Her mum had a background in fashion and knew how to make patterns, and now she's making toys all around the world.
Wow. Well, that was a surprising ending. I didn't expect that, but how wonderful. Peggy, I think you're the perfect ambassador for these people.
Thank you.
And even old curmudgeons like me who are drowning in clutter, you've found a way. As Leonard Cohen said, there's a crack in everything. Mm-hmm. That's how the light gets in.
That's right.
I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. And you've heard, dear listener, the journey. So, the Bowerbird Design Market, November 22 to 24, Wayville Pavilion, Adelaide Showground. Friday is 4 till 9, if I'm right.
Yeah, so Friday's a 2-for-1 night. So it's basically come after work and 2 for 1. So you pay for one, get 2 people through the door.
Yep.
So that's those people that want to see what's fresh, what's new. Mm-hmm. And then Saturday, Sunday is 10 till 5. And on Sunday, we're bringing Santa as well, the original toy maker.
Oh, yes, of course, of course. And now paying the elves a good wage, I believe.
I believe.
And is this true, supporting Catherine House?
That's right. So Catherine House is our chosen charity. So whether it's through the gift wrapping station or through the Get a Photo with Santa, all those donations go to Catherine House.
Peggy Byrne, it's been an absolute gift being able to sit with you and chat about Bowerbird. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And now it's time for the musical pilgrimage.
In the musical pilgrimage, we're going to leave you with a gift, and it's the gift of music from Dino Jag. I'm not going to say very much because I could wax lyrical for a long time. I love Dino Jag's style, his essence, his sound, his artistic judgments. This man oozes good vibes in his music, whether he's doing a heartfelt, sad song or something to get you up and get your spirit moving. This track, which we originally featured in episode 174 back in 2016, You Don't Have to Wait for Christmas Day, now has an accompanying video, which is great fun. And I think I actually feel hard on myself that I have not included this in my Christmas playlist when we get together. That will be corrected this year. This will be at the top of the tree like a star. So let's have a South Australian Yuletide finish to this episode with Dino Jag. You don't have to wait for Christmas Day.
I was just a boy in a dream. This big old man, he came to me. He had the greatest beard you'd ever seen. He came with reindeers, 8 of them, plus one with a nose that glowed bright red, and all these little men with pointy ears. He said, you don't need no Christmas tree to light the world, to set it free. All you gotta do is sing and make the people dance. And if you come with me to lend a hand, help spread my message to the land, I'll teach you how to sing my melody. Tra-la-la-la-la, la-la. many people with a frown. That you don't need no jingle bells, no wishing wells or carousels to teach them how to sing my melody. Tra-la-la-la-la, la-la. He said all you gotta do is go ho, 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 wave your hands in the air and say hey, hey, hey. See if you can make them smile, if you can make them laugh. 'Cause every ho, ho, ho and every hey, hey, hey can make a little difference in the world today. You don't have to wait for Christmas Day. Tra-la-la-la-la, la-la. He said you don't need no Christmas tree to light the world, to set it free. All you gotta do is sing and make the people dance. And if you come with me to lend a hand, help spread my message to the land. We'll teach them how to sing in harmony. Tra-la-la-la-la, la-la. Come on. He said all you gotta do is go ho, 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 wave your hands in the air and say hey, hey, hey. See if you can make them smile, if you can make them laugh. 'Cause every ho, ho, ho and every hey, hey, hey can make a little difference in the world today. And you don't have to wait for Christmas Day. Tra-la-la-la-la, la-la. And you don't have to wait for Christmas Day.
Well, we've wrapped up that episode. We've put a nice ribbon around it and we've placed it under the tree. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening. Of course, there are more South Australians we'll be talking to soon. Until next time, it's good night from me, Steve Davis. Good night, Don.
The Adelaide Show Podcast is produced by my dad, Steve Davis. If you want to start a podcast or get some help producing creative content, talk to him. Visit stevedavis.com.au. Thanks, AJ. I'm Caitlin Davis, and I agree with everything my sister said. But there's one more thing to say. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a rating or a review, because that will make my dad really happy. Oh, and one more thing. If you really, really liked it, please help a friend put the Adelaide Show on their phone. Thanks for listening. Buzz, buzz, I want to be.
Adelaide, 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 ooh, Adelaide, 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 ooh.